Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rahban, and we have a show for you. Our show is going to be awesome because it's a show about two procedures that I truly love doing, noses and chins. Now, whereas doing a tummy tuck and a otoplasty, ear pinning, have nothing to do with each other, noses and chins are literally like sister and brother. They are so important together, and I'm so lucky to have a fantastic patient of mine, Genesis, who's agreed and been sweet enough to join us and allow us to have a discussion about her nose and chin procedure, and as a result, maybe gain some insight and why the two of them together is so much more powerful than either one of them alone. So, welcome to the show, Genesis. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hello, Dr. Rahban. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
You're a sweetheart. So, let's start with saying thank you. I always like to address the patients and say thank you because you don't have to be on the show. And being on the show is certain. There's a little bit of vulnerability associated. And why are you on the show? You're on the show so that we can have a chat so that you, with your experience, can maybe add some insight to someone else who may be wanting to do it. So it's very kind of you to be on our show. I can obviously talk about these things without you, but when there's a patient who's had the experience, it's so much more effective. So thank you for being on the show. Now, let's chat. Let's start with the basics. How old are you?
25.
25. Awesome. Where do you live?
Hacienda Heights, California.
Hacienda Heights, California. How far is Hacienda from Beverly Hills?
Like a 35 to 40 minute drive with no traffic.
Wonderful. So you're local as far as we're concerned. And when did you have your procedure?
I had it February 4th of 2022.
February 4th of 22. So almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. That's crazy. I thought actually we were about to say 2023. I thought you just had it. I didn't realize it was so long ago. Oh my God. Wow. Awesome. And what exactly did you have done?
I got a septoplasty and a chin augmentation.
Right. So you had a septoplasty, a rhinoplasty, and a chin aug. And I'm glad that you separated the two because it's very important we talk about that. So essentially you did your nose and your chin, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you, did you or did you not come in originally asking for your chin? Hold on before you answer that. So no, that's fine. What I was going to say is originally, did you already know, oh, I need my chin? Or you're like, I hate my nose, I don't like it, and you came to get it done. And through our discussion, discovered that perhaps the chin would be a nice component.
Yeah, exactly. I went in because I hated my nose. I had no idea I had a weak chin.
Right. And so that's really, really not uncommon. So I have a really strong philosophy. When patients come to the practice and I examine them, I almost never make suggestions. I almost never tell them, hey, what about your abdomen? So perfect example. Mom comes to me, she's had 3 kids. She's standing before me. I'm examining her breast. She's there for a breast lift. I have chosen not to be like, hey, what about your stomach? Because I think, in my opinion, that's off-putting. Obviously, if the patient wanted to do her stomach, she would have mentioned it. And I think when surgeons try to upsell or make suggestions, many times patients are turned off by that. However, when it comes to the nose and the chin, I always tell patients. The reason I tell patients is that most patients are exactly like you. They come in, they say, I don't like my nose, and here's 1,000 reasons why. And then I'm examining you, and one of the main things that patients complain about is their profile. When I am standing here and you take a picture of me, or you stand next to me, I hate the way this looks. And it turns out that you cannot have a nice profile if you have a nice nose and a weak chin. It's impossible. And that without a nice jaw your nose is essentially useless. Because when it comes to the profile, what creates a beautiful profile, man or woman, is that the forehead, the nose, and the chin are in alignment. So you came in, and at the time you were a little over 23, between 23 and 24. And I always find young patients very interesting because they're super vulnerable, right? You don't know that much. You're young. Money is a big deal, right? When you're 43, $2,000 or $3,000 is different than when you're 23. So when I have a young patient in my practice, I'm always very surprised because we have kind of a mature practice. We're an expensive practice. So when I see young people, I'm always very impressed because it means that they really did their homework, because I assure you, you could find a cheaper solution than coming to my office, right?
Yes.
Is that true? Was that true? Am I right?
Very true.
Okay. So you came to my office and you're like, hey, Dr. Rahban, I don't like it. So what did you not like about your nose?
Ooh, I hated my side profile. I hated how it was like, I had a bump right here.
Right. You had a dorsal hump. Okay.
And then the tip was just like a little bulgy here.
Right. So you had a bulbous tip, like a round ball. Okay.
Yeah. And I just think it just stood out.
All right. So it was a bit prominent. It looked kind of, most patients say it's kind of beaky or large and stuck out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that takes care of the cosmetics of your nose. How was your breathing before surgery?
I could only breathe through one nostril, but I didn't really know.
Right. So you came in, you're like, hey, I don't like my nose. It's ugly. And through your exam, I said to you, A, you got some issues breathing. I do? Yeah, your left side is blocked. Ah, okay. And your chin is weak. Ah, okay. So as a result, what did we end up doing? We ended up doing your cosmetic rhinoplasty, addressing the things you didn't like. It's hump, blah, blah, blah. We did your septoplasty. How's your breathing today?
Much better.
Much better. Are you a triathlete? Are you a runner? Are you?
No.
No. So, but doesn't it feel better to still be able to breathe?
Yes. It makes a difference.
So people underestimate how much shitty breathing through their nose affects them, whether it's sleep or exercise. And then we also did a chin augmentation. So we did 2 out of the 3 things that we did for you. You kind of didn't even know till you came in, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's start with the basics. You're 23 years old and you're looking at your nose. What made you decide to fix it? Like, why now? Why not in a year from now? Why not 4 years before?
I've just never liked my nose. And as I got older, I still disliked it. And I was like, I want to get my surgery early on so that I look like this for a longer period of time.
Right. And what was the trigger that made it that year? Like, what happened? What were the events that... Because what happens is what you're describing is, with noses, it's very, very common. Most people hate their nose from adolescence. 16, 14, 12, 18, and it's just keep going. There's an event that you're like, now I'm going to do it. So what was it that made it 23? What happened in your life that you're like, I want to do it now? Did you just suddenly have the money? Did you see a nose on celeb? What was there an event?
I just had been doing research since high school, and then I started working. I always said I was going to do it. I started saving up. Then once I had like a reasonable amount of money and it wasn't an issue anymore, then it was when I was like, here it is. I'm going to do it.
Excellent. So you did what you're supposed to do. You saved your money first and then went and did it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm telling you I was impressed. Because at 23, you walked into the Hermes boutique. You didn't walk into some strip mall. So what happens is that a lot of patients, young especially, want something, a breast aug, a BBL, a nose job, whatever. They're not in the financial situation where they can afford it, and they go get it done anyways at some shitty place. So I commend you, because what you said to me was, I always hated my nose. I started to work. I saved the money. And when I had the money, I went all in. Correct?
Yes, all in, definitely.
So what made you decide to go somewhere expensive rather than somewhere inexpensive? Because I'm sure, do you come from a lot of money?
I do not. I paid for the surgery myself.
What did you do to save the money? You worked?
I worked as a nanny, so it did make better pay than most jobs.
So you worked as a nanny. You had a real hard-earned job. You saved money. And what would you do as your research? How did you decide, like, okay, well, why didn't you go on the guy on Instagram? There's a guy on TikTok. Isn't that what you guys do, your generation? Don't you just pick doctors out of social media, like where the Kardashians went or something?
Yes. So I had been doing research since high school, maybe like 17, 18. And I just went on Google, Yelp. I had like a list of doctors. Then I like went really deep into like researching and, looking at their before and afters. And you were the top on my list.
Okay. So what you're telling me is, A, I did a shit ton of research because you were in high school when you started and you did it at 23. So it had to have been 5 years of research, which allows you the time to dig and dig and dig and dig. And then the second thing you're telling me is that you saved up money. This is a very, very important message for young people because young people tend to be more spontaneous and more impulsive, right? They tend to be like, I want it and I want it now. But you can't afford it now. Doesn't matter. I'll get it anyways. Because technically, you could have had the same procedures you had for half. Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes, mostly. Yeah, most definitely.
So, all right. So let me ask you a question because you brought this up. I asked you, what are some recommendations that you made? And you said to me, trust your gut. And so tell me what that means to you. Hold on, don't tell me. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll come back. And when we come back, I want you to explain to me what you meant when you said, trust your gut, because I think that was really important what you said to me prior to us starting the show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Plastic Surgery Uncensored. All right, welcome back to the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We're chatting with Genesis, and we're having a conversation about chin augmentation, rhinoplasty, septoplasty, a whole bunch of things. And I was chatting with you, and you had said to me before, I said, give me some advice that you want to tell people. And you said, trust your gut. What does that mean?
If you want to do something and, you feel like you really want to do it in your gut, to just do it, especially with something so big as plastic surgery. When it comes to choosing a doctor, because you might have people try to like talk to you or like talk you out of getting surgery due to like it's not necessary or I would never pay that much money. But I think I always trusted my gut and I think I made the right decision at the end of the day.
So that was excellent. So what you're suggesting is that when you decided to do your nose, people were telling you what?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I had people say, it's unnecessary. Like, you don't need it. You're pretty. And I'm like, well, that's not the point. Like, I'm still not going to like my nose.
Right. So how many times have people who are listening dislike something, hate it, and the people that love them think they're doing you a favor and they're telling you, oh, no, you're beautiful or you're handsome. You don't need it. Well, yeah, I know that I'm handsome, but it bothers me. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Like, it still bothers me. It's not going to change. Like, it's me.
Right. So that's one thing. And what about that? You're going to spend how much? What else did they tell you?
Yeah, I guess when I said, I'm getting my nose done, they said, oh, where are you going? And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to Dr. Rahban, Beverly Hills. And people were like, oh my gosh, crazy. I would never spend that much money on my plastic surgery. And my thing was just like, well, too bad, good thing it's not your money you're spending,
Right.
It's me.
See, that I just think that's awesome. I just think that as a grown-ass 45-year-old woman, you have that experience behind you. But I think as a young girl, for you to be able to be like, I don't care. I saved the money for a reason. I just tell you it's super mature. Not because you came to me. I don't care where you went. But what you did was that you went somewhere excellent because you felt it was the right thing for you to do. So that's awesome. Any other naysayers or things that you heard when you decided to do it?
People would tell me, like, why don't you go out of the country, get your nose done?
So like such as, you're Latina, right?
Yes, I am.
Were people suggesting to you to go somewhere in Mexico? What were you being told?
Yes, go to Tijuana. Tijuana is a big spot for people to get plastic surgery. Most
Right.
definitely.
Especially if you're Latina, especially if you're in California.
Yes.
So who suggested for you, you don't need to give me their names, but who were the people that were suggesting for you to go to Mexico?
Friends and family members, cousins, people that know me.
So isn't that crazy? Here you are, you're like, I'm going to go to, I don't know, I think the best of the best. And people around you are like, what? Why would you spend that kind of money? Just go to TJ. You can get it for a third.
Yeah, a third. Yeah.
Well, okay. So you said, no, I'm going to do it. So we did your nose and chin. So let's talk about a little bit about recovery, because I think that you said, the second thing I asked you is like, what do you think people should know? You should say, be realistic about the recovery. So tell me about your recovery and what aspects you think should be realistic. First of all, were you in excruciating pain?
No, the pain wasn't.
So as I mentioned to you when we meet, nose jobs, chin ogs, unlike say liposuction or tummy tuck, are not uncomfortable. They're not painful. So the pain. So what aspects do you think people should be prepared for? You said be realistic. What are they?
I think for me, I experienced a lot of tension around my nose and around my chin, which is, I mean, obvious because your whole face gets like cut up.
Right.
And I actually did it in the middle or the beginning of my semester in school. So that maybe wasn't like the best decision.
Okay.
And
what did you experience? You felt like because you were uncomfortable while you were in school. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because I play an instrument. I play the flute, so I use my face a lot. So it was particular for me. I know not a lot of people play instruments, but I had trouble like playing the flute for like the first 2 months.
100%. Chin augmentation and flute playing is like a no-brainer. It takes you at least 2 to 3 months for your jaw and your chin to be fully normal to the point that you could play a super sophisticated instrument. So I think that's really important for people to understand. Make sure you know what you demand from yourself post-op so you can ask your surgeon, hey, I played a trombone. Am I going to be okay? And the answer is no. You got to give yourself 3 months. What other, and in school, other than the instrument playing, was there anything else that you felt made the recovery a little bit more challenging that you need to be prepared for?
Yeah, I think being in the middle of school, but I was just so desperate and I wanted to schedule the surgery as soon as possible that I just went for it. I really didn't think about it, but I don't regret it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the point you're making is just be prepared. It's just no recovery is a walk in the park. No recovery is easy breezy. Surgeons love to sell you procedures and minimize the recovery. I cannot tell you the number of surgeons online that minimize a breast augmentation recovery. The reason we minimize it as surgeons is we want you to do it. And we don't want you waiting until the right time. It's a huge mistake. It's a real procedure that requires you to be in the right place afterwards. So let me ask you a question. How much do you love your chin?
I love it.
Would you could you imagine your nose had you not done the chin?
Nope. I can't.
Do you like imagine right now you're looking in the mirror and you're like, your chin was the way it was before. What do you think? You think your result would have been a little better, a little worse? What do you think?
I don't think it would have been the same at all.
And when you told people you were doing your chin, were people going crazy or what?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I actually didn't tell people I was doing my chin.
And that was very smart. Because a nose job, everyone's like, yeah, whatever. But when you mention, especially as a woman, that you're doing your chin, people automatically start giving you comments they don't need to. Oh, you're going to look like Jay Leno. Oh, you're going to look like a man. Oh, you're going to... you're this, that, the other. And the reality is it couldn't be farthest from the truth. I always tell patients during consults, if you're a woman and you look at a magazine, you look at J-Lo, Angelina Jolie, what's her name? Megan Fox. Everyone's got a kick-ass chin and jaw. There's no supermodel on the planet who doesn't have a almost masculine jaw. So it's definitely necessary. Did anybody comment about your chin since you didn't tell anybody, or just what was the feedback? Since it sounded like you had a lot of people that were a little bit against you doing this. So what was the aftermath? So you're like, F you guys, I'm going to go to Beverly Hills. I'm going to do it. Leave me alone. So what was the aftermath now that everything's done and you're finished?
Everybody was just blown away by how good I looked. They were like, "Oh, you look so good, this and that." But only the people that I told them that I did my chin said, "Wow, it looks amazing. Like, it just looks proportionate."
So in other words, no one on their own came up to you like, "Hey, what's going on with your jaw? What's up with that?" And only the people you mentioned were like, oh, okay. Right?
Yeah.
So that tells you that a chin augmentation in a woman can and does look natural.
Yeah.
That's really, really important for people to understand. So we did a cosmetic rhinoplasty. How's this? And did you talk to me about the swelling of your nose? We always talk about that and people don't understand. So which seemed to heal faster, your chin or your nose?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. I think my chin, maybe?
For sure, your chin will look better and feel more normal because your nose traditionally takes about a year and a half for the swelling to go away. Right? It's not that it doesn't look good, but I'm sure it was a bit stiff and numb.
Yeah.
Right? And so now that you're a year and a half, I bet you if you look at your nose now, don't you think it looks different than it did 8 months ago?
Oh, yes. I have pictures and very different.
What are the differences between 8 months ago and now?
Well, 8 months ago, it was very tucked up, and then the sides here were very swollen. Just my whole nose was very swollen, and now it's thinned out. It dropped a little more.
Right.
Just perfect.
Right. So two things happen, and you just mentioned them perfectly. The swelling goes away, so your nose looks more refined.
Yes, way more refined.
And the swelling goes away, and your tip comes down a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not, it doesn't look a little over-rotated. So that's expected. And so therefore, when it's all said and done, it ends up falling right into place. So that's really important for people to understand. We tell patients constantly, breast aug, tummy tuck, liposuction, chin aug, everything. Expect your recovery 3 to 6 months. Noses, 1 to 2 years. And they're like, what? And I mean, everybody is 1 to 2 years. So it's very important. And when we have patients on the show that we talked about noses, it's very important that they reiterate that because people don't prepare for it and they're not ready. All right. Anything last minute advice to the young patients who want to go and do either their nose or their chin or any type of surgery, since you are now 25 and you're an old gal and you've been through this experience? Any last minute advice before we get off the show?
Trust your gut and be really, really mindful of who you pick as your surgeon. Don't do it for the financial component. Worry about yourself.
I think it's so straightforward, yet so wise. And I think that's why I think it was so important to have you on the show because, money doesn't come out of nowhere, and if you don't have it, then you should save. That's the key, right? Mm-hmm. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We loved having you. You look stunning, fantastic. And I'm so happy that you're happy and all the naysayers are quiet. That's key. You shut up the peanut gallery, so to speak. All right, guys, that's another wrap of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. As you always know, at the end of every show, I have 2 things that I say. One is, if you like the show, go write something nice. Make us feel good, all the people that are involved in the show. It's always nice to read something positive. And secondly, if you love the show and you think it's useful, Share it with the people you love. You will be surprised who goes and does a procedure and then find out that they did it and you wish they had had the information. So just share this information with as many people as you know. We always appreciate you. Genesis, thanks for being on the show, and we are grateful for all the listeners. Until next time, I'm your host, Dr. Rahban, signing off on Plastic Surgery Uncensored.